welcome back to the second episode. We will be discussing certainty today. So, I am joined by none other than the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Chris Biersack. So, first off, I just want to thank him so much for kind of giving his thoughts on the song and giving a little bit of a different perspective on things. This is super fun to dive into and learn about, and I hope you guys learn some things too.
All right, so we're going to dive into Certainty. This was released January 8th of this year. They did send out newsletters. If you're not signed up for Black Veil Brides' newsletters, make sure you do so on their site.
Okay, so the newsletter that Black Veil Brides had sent out about this song, it's a long one. I'm going to try and read this as fast as I can without any oopsies, because I tend to get ahead of myself when I'm reading. But it says, I hope that you are having a lovely holiday season, and I hope that 2026 has treated you well so far. I'm excited to get the opportunity to talk to you about our new song, Certainty, as well as a music video for Certainty. The term in general concept of certainty plays a big part in the totality of this record. You will find as you go through the full album that the terminology is used fairly often, and it is a concept that I go back to many times on the record. This song in particular was initially inspired by the movie Conclave and the speech that is given in regards to religious certainty. So often in our lives, we have these beliefs and belief structures and systems that we build for ourselves that we are so ironclad certain of that we become immovable. And learning learning new things, desiring new things, being willing to change one's mind when given resources or information becomes almost impossible because of the prisons that we build for ourselves through our own certainty. So much of our political and social conversation in this day and age seems to focus around certainty. That back and forth creates an echo chamber that seems impossible to get out of. The certainty of knowing how and when this all ends, what happens, what's the right thing to believe, what's not the right thing to believe, all those things play into the narrative of this record. This song was the final song that we wrote and recorded for the record. This was a song that initially started with the idea that Jake had that he sent to me. Between the two of us, we got it done within a course of several days in terms of the writing part of the process, and then it was recorded shortly thereafter. I think that this was one of those songs that felt like it was needed for the album from both a narrative perspective but also musically. I feel like this represents, in many ways, the tonality of the album and what we are trying to go for, and certainly, it is something that is very important to us. I hope that you enjoy the song. I hope that you enjoy the music video directed by the incomparable George. Kata? Yes. And his team in Bodega, Colombia. We had an incredible time shooting the video in historic location in Bodega. And I think it's maybe one of my favorite videos we've ever done. His interpretation of the song and representation of these biblical twins, fear and pride. I'm so excited to continue to work with him throughout the course of this album. I hope that you've enjoyed the song. I hope you enjoy the record. We have so much more coming. The BVB full-length album engine has been kicked on, and you will be seeing new things constantly. New songs, new tours, new shows, new merchandise, and most importantly, the full album very soon. Thank you so much for your constant support. We appreciate you and hope that you love Certainty. And that was written by Andy, sent in the newsletter.
The artwork was done by Richard. They've worked with them plenty of times before. They also did the artwork for Vindicate. So when they first dropped the artwork, a lot of fans were saying that it was AI, which
I don't think I don't think that was the final artwork that they wanted to use, to be quite honest with you. The one that they dropped with with him on some kind, was it a bed or like a
Yeah, I think it was
shelf
one of
on
those
a,
big fancy beds with the curtains and everything.
right. I don't think that's what they originally intended to be in the, like the Spotify or representation of it, but it just
Yeah.
got dropped. And it wasn't even like the most detailed, what is it when you send a photo out and it's at its finest, it's at its very best. It was kind of blurry if you remember it when it came out. So
Yeah.
I saw it. I knew what the album was going to look like anyway prior to them dropping Certainty. So I knew it didn't fit in exactly with the theme of the album. But since the music video was going to be so elaborate and so interesting, I didn't really give it two thoughts.
Yeah. I did kind of tie in with the music video just because where they had filmed the music video was in that historical place in Colombia.
Oh yeah, man! It's like a
Yeah.
mansion in
Yeah.
Bogota. Yeah,
That was beautiful. But so that music video was filmed by George, who also filmed the Vindicate music video,
yeah.
which was
George
in the
George
storyline
Kata.
part.
I think it's
Yeah.
I think it's pronounced Kata or Kata. Andy said it to me a number of times. George
Yeah.
Alexander Kata.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, he's
That
very
was,
well known
yeah.
in a variety of different mediums, not just rock, but he's done a bunch of other things for other artists in the past. So his reputation kind of precedes him. And it just so happened that Black Veil was going to be in Colombia. So they decided to, yeah, I think it was they recorded them before they played the show in Colombia, and they were there for like a day
Yeah.
prior. And I think they made both of those music videos in the span of about 48 hours.
Yeah. I think they did. I think what I have in the notes was they started in the morning, they did all the band shots, and then most of the band got done around, I think it was like 3 or 4 p.m. their time. And then
Yeah.
Andy had to stay afterwards because they were doing all those shots of him in the grave, and they were
Yeah.
spraying him down with like glycerin and throwing dirt on him.
That's,
And then there was
that's
that cold
right.
front that went through, so then it was
Yeah. Oh,
cold.
yeah. He
Yeah.
said he was miserable in that, down in that dirt in the ground because it was pretty deep. For what they
Yeah.
had to at least make it deep enough that you couldn't see the top of his head when he was filming. So
Yeah, and they had dug that hole beforehand, like 100 yards plus away from the building itself.
yeah,
But
that's the other weird thing is that they didn't even need in Colombia. They don't need like all the special permits to. I mean, they were literally tearing up somebody's yard
yeah,
and having a grave out in front of the mansion, and all they have to do is they just got to pay for it, and as long as you resod it and that's paid for, they're
yeah,
good with it. You could never
yeah.
do that in the United States. You could
No, you have to
never do
jump
that.
through so many
No,
hoops.
so many hoops. Yeah.
But anyway, the song itself, kind of backtracking a little bit, it was produced by Andy and Jake, correct?
Yes, that's correct. All of the
Okay.
songs on the album were written and produced by Andy and Jake.
Yeah. And you can tell it feels like they have a lot more creative I guess flow and freedom with this
Yes.
album and the songs that have been released. So I think them moving to Spine Farm was a good breath of air. So
Yeah, that's a good point, Cassidy, because what it enabled them to do is it in the past, and people don't really know this, but you can assume it based upon major labels and everything. Major labels want songs that are going to be the hits. What's going
yeah,
to be the radio song? The radio song? They'll come to you. And for years, that's been what Black Veil has been asked to do, to produce songs that would be on contemporary rock radio.
yep,
And they could have written and produced a million breakdowns in their songs, but there's two reasons that they didn't. One of them is that when they started out, their audience was younger, and their audience has grown with them and has grown up with them. And they could have been the heaviest band in metal if they had wanted to, because Jinx and Jake and Cece are three of the best musicians at their various instruments that's in the scene.
yeah,
But they were trying to find that niche in radio. It kind of paid off in some respects. There were some songs that made it, but ultimately they decided that, our audience now is older, and our
Yeah.
audience wants us. They like the screams, which is funny for those of us who go to all the shows, that we know that Andy screams all the time in the shows and never stopped. So
Yeah.
when people would be like, he never screams anymore, it's like, well, you haven't gone to a concert
Yeah.
because
He'll literally add in
right.
screams, and you're like, oh, wow.
And there were so many albums that they would have the screams in the songs, and then the label would say, "Well, we're going to do a song that we remove all of the screams from. We're only going to have maybe some screams." It was just kind of a pulling and tugging with the record labels in the past, and having Spine Farm support them and their vision, and knowing that Jake can pull it off as a producer, as somebody who's in there, because he did it with The Night. He did it with the re-record of
Yeah.
Restitch These Wounds. He's done it with Bleeders, the EP. We've
Yeah.
seen that he can handle it, and it probably is the best Black Veil's ever sounded.
Yeah. You can tell the production quality is a lot better than, I mean, not to dog on Wretch and Divine, but compared to Wretch and Divine and Veil and their past albums, you can tell that the production quality is significantly on like a higher level
I
since
think
then.
it's
So
I think it's more on a level that's indicative of the type of band Black Veil is, as opposed to some of the producers that they worked with in the past, particularly Feldy, had a pop punk sensibility or a pop sensibility to them.
yep.
They've worked with pop punk type bands, or he's worked with. And I'm not saying there's anything negative about that, because that was a different route that they took and everything. But ultimately, this is a heavy band, and it has been since the beginning. I
Oh
would
yeah.
laugh when people would say, well, they're not, this band is so much heavier. Black Veil's a pop band and everything. And I'd be like, well, you've never seen them in concert. So you
Yeah.
obviously don't know. They would blow your favorite heavy band out of the water.
Oh
That's
yeah.
just me. That's, of course, me being biased about it. But I've always felt like everybody that I would hear especially at Trinity of Terror, that would talk about Black Veil's the worst on this lineup. I don't want to see Black Veil, all that stuff. I'd be like, your favorite band, they wish, their guitarist and their drummer wishes they were as good as Black Veil's guitarist and drummer. They
Yeah.
wish, because Black Veil doesn't play over a track of the entire song like other bands do. Black Veil plays live. The only thing that they track is gang vocals,
Yeah.
and and some symphonic instrumentation that Jinx did that you can't have unless you have an orchestra behind you to play the song.
Yeah. Yeah.
But they're playing their guitars fully. No, they're not playing over a record of their guitars and them playing. Andy does not have any vocal help. If he's got a bad voice because he's been singing too much or whatever, you're going to get rough Andy that night. And
Yeah.
that's just the way it's going to be. Andy's a punk rock kid at heart, and there is no way in hell he would do a show like some of the bands that I've seen recently that Black have played with.
All right. So obviously you heard the song, and you heard the song before some of us. What were your kind of initial reactions and takeaways with the song?
Wow, the first time I heard it, Andy played me a demo of it. My first reaction was, this is completely different than anything that you guys have ever released.
Oh yeah.
And it took me a few listens to kind of warm up to the song, because
Okay, same.
it doesn't have the same like angst and passion in the delivery of the lyrics, particularly, because the first thing I'm listening for, obviously, as I'm listening for melody, I'm listening for the chorus. I want to hear Andy singing, and then I'm focusing on the other elements of what's going on. Just as
Yeah.
Andy's dad, that's something that when I hear a song, that's what I'm listening to.
Yeah.
And obviously, they were. I don't know if this was just a move to basically shut people up that say they don't do breakdowns and they don't do this and they can't, which I thought was hilarious. Jake can play a freaking solo like nobody else, and Jinx and Jake can play dual solos like nobody else in the scene, but they're not good enough to play breakdowns. That's just kind of silly. So my first reaction to it was, yeah, this is different than anything that we've seen before. There is no guitar solo in the song at all.
Yeah.
Andy's delivery is almost kind of like very deliberate and very I'll call it, it doesn't contain the same amount of passion. It's almost like matter of fact the way he originally delivers it. And I think he did that, and we can ask Andy about it at some point in time, but I think he did that because he wanted the screams, the guttural screams and the things that did come out in that song to just like make your head whip back when it actually happened.
And,
so, yeah,
and a lot of people that don't really listen to Black Veil Brides that much, when this song dropped, it was kind of funny to watch some of the reaction videos and people's response to the video, because they're like, oh my God, Black Veil Brides is heavy again, blah, 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 blah. It's like, you guys just haven't really been paying attention to them, and you're only really talking about this just because it's becoming a bigger thing on like TikTok and stuff now. So like,
how do you feel about that? About that whole thing? Because I have my theories, but I'm more interested in how you feel about that as a longtime fan, somebody who's been with the band since the very beginning.
It is kind of frustrating in the fact that people will say that like, oh, Black Veil Brides is finally heavy, and they'll finally pay attention to like their songs and stuff, but oftentimes I'll notice like they won't understand the meaning behind the songs, and because Andy will write songs and stuff with a purpose behind it. Like there's always a message behind it and a purpose behind it. And that kind of gets lost on some of the sometimes newer fans, sometimes people that are literally just discovering the band or just heard this one song. So it is frustrating, but like the best that we can do is just kind of explain the song and explain like the meaning behind certain things, just because I think just listening to the song alone, I mean, if you're not really paying attention, you're not going to really understand what it's actually about. But it is kind of nice to see like new fans join and start kind of doing their own deep dives and asking questions and interacting on like the Black Veil Brides Discord, and even just on Twitter and in general, asking about songs and suggestions and stuff, and learning more about the band. It is kind of nice to see that part of it too.
I think that's a really good way to look at it. Instead of like my initial reaction was kind of like, oh my God, I can't believe these people are saying that. But then my response was always, oh, if you like that one, here's a couple other songs from their catalog that I think you also might like. Here's Coffin, here's Legacy. These are all songs, whatever songs I could find, songs that came off of the self-titled album. Songs that came up. There were some songs off of Veil that were heavy songs. And as I said, breakdowns don't equal heaviness to me, because I know plenty of bands that can do breakdowns to the point where you're just bored to death because it's just, okay, can you guys do anything else besides that? And they play a 4-minute song, and 2.5 to 3 minutes of the song is a breakdown. And you're like, well,
predictable.
There's nothing memorable about that. There's no chorus. There's nothing that people are humming. I want everybody to enjoy it, not just people who like breakdowns. That's almost become like a meme now. When you see people react to videos, they've become so accustomed to thinking that, oh my God, it's a breakdown. This must be really heavy. When shredding like Jake does is heavy.
Yeah.
Okay. And there's not many people in the scene, particularly in the Warped Tour scene, they came out in the 2010s, that could play like that. Then Black Veil's got 2 of them. They get 2 guys in their band who either one of them would be the best lead guitarist in any other band that they play with or plays on the same bill. So
they know how to shred.
I was not upset about people being excited about it, because that's, it's great that people are sitting there going, oh my God, this is Black Veil. I can't believe. But if you listen to Hallelujah, you can hear how heavy they are. If you listen to even the bleeders, you can tell how that. But just like anything else, a band grows with their audience, and when the audience who's followed them is saying, "Hey, we love you, but give us more." Like, I think it really inspired Andy when he would be on tour, and people would talk about how much they loved the screams and how he could hold a scream for like 18 seconds or 19 seconds or whatever it was at Warped Tour. And he was like, all right, we're going to give you a lot more of those. And he went and got vocal coach that helped him to be able to sustain those screams for longer and to do them longer without hurting his voice, and took it very seriously. And I think the proof's in the pudding with the songs we've seen so far or heard so far.
100%. 100%. Yeah. Yeah. And when you were watching the music video, so what are some things that you picked up on watching the music video, and I guess what your takeaways were just from that storyline and what you thought that the music video itself was embodying, I guess?
Because I had heard this song and I had seen the lyrics prior to the music video coming out, I knew what the intent was for Andy. So I was really confused when I saw the music video, because a lot of that was George Kata's vision.
Mm-hmm.
But what I will say is that that the way he photographed that, the way the video that he took, the film that he took, was just breathtakingly beautiful at times. It was just amazing how he was able to use that slow-mo that he does. And
and the lighting and everything that he had in the music video. I had to stop it a couple times. I was like, damn, that's a really good shot.
Yeah, they used every ounce of that mansion, or whatever you want to call it, and utilized that to perfection. And the twins, the twin brothers, were fantastic. They were like, they fighting each other, and they did all of those all those jumps. And I'm not even sure exactly how they got up there to do
I've been wondering how they filmed the scenes of them kind of jumping and doing all these acrobatics in the in the room. I'm like, dang. And the fact that it was like the same people too, I was like, these guys are really talented. And the fighting,
incredible. It was good.
Yeah.
The fighting was intense. I know a lot of people were like, he's fighting himself and this and that. I don't really know what the point of that is, to be honest with you. I've watched that video so many times, and I still can't necessarily figure out for certain what exactly it was about. I will tell you that the song in and of itself is about the struggle that Andy has had over the years to try to be somebody that did the right things, said the right things, and was supportive of the right things in his life, and how any second somebody can decide on social media that he said something that he didn't say, or he did something that he didn't do, and that now he's persona non grata. He doesn't matter anymore. He's not a person.
I think with that, taking that into account, because you said you were kind of, I guess, confused about what the two brothers fighting were.
Yeah.
I think it was and correct me if I'm wrong, anybody can correct me if I'm wrong about this, but I believe when Andy talked about this on the Andy show, it was supposed to represent pride and fear, fighting within yourself. So that kind of ties into, like you said, someone on the internet trying to claim that you did something. So you're kind of fighting with, am I proud of what I have done, or should I be fearful of what I'm going to do, or things that I have said in the past because this one idiot on Reddit or whatever said this. How should I deal with it? So at least that's my takeaway with that, and the tie between the song itself and the music video. I think they did a good job of kind of encapsulating that. So
yeah, I think they did a fantastic job. I mean, what ultimately, what you see is when they become the other, which Andy references, then you see a representation of them as faceless, as wearing
I was just going to bring that up.
That the whole band at one point in time, and you see Andy wearing the black mask, and you can see like smoke coming out of it when he's singing and everything else. You know, the other thing is that he's digging, trying to get rid of the thing that is chasing him, or the thing that is putting him under this anxiety and this stress that he has. He's a anxious person by nature. He's got a medical condition that that makes him highly anxious. He's he's had to overcome that in his life. He's got social anxiety out the wazoo. You know, a guy who's a frontman in a metal band that sees, plays in front of all these people and goes to meet and greets all the time and everything else. You would not assume that would be his kryptonite, but for most of his life it was and has been. Yeah. So he's really tried so hard to be somebody that the fans, because he loves the fans, and he wants the fans to feel like, if there's anybody that's out there that you can count on, it's me. And then he sees things that are out there in social media about things that he had nothing to do with, about the personalities of other people, about other people in the industry who, Andy decided to go on a tour with him, or a guy who used to be in the band and wound up being a really bad guy. And they hadn't done a tour in like 2 or 3 years because Andy did the solo project because he didn't want to be in the band with that guy anymore. Yeah. And they were on separate buses, but yet people were still saying, Andy, you're canceled because this guy was accused of doing those things. Yeah. I mean, it's just got to be insane. This is a business. Yeah. I mean, you can be true to your own fans, but if your own fans begrudge you playing in front of 15,000 people a night, and they want you to keep playing in theaters or in clubs instead, then I don't know that if those quote unquote fans have your best interests at heart. Yeah. These are grown ass men, some of them are getting close to 40 years old. Andy's 35. So yeah. He got responsibilities. Hell, Jink's got a kid.
Yeah, you brought up the band wearing the mask. That was my next thing I was going to talk about with the music video. So I'm going to quote him on this because this is from the Andy show, and I wrote it down when I was watching this because I was like, this is super important. So with the band wearing masks, it's more so representing like the religious or emotional certainty and the unity of them, having basically no identity. Makes them not, it's not unique, but under the guise of like religious or emotional certainty, it's seen as like unity and we're together. But what Andy said was, when you're so entrenched in something, there's comfort in the entrenchment, commonality with others, and anonymity. I cannot say that right. Uniformity and anonymity. Yes.
Anonymity. There you go. I got you.
Thank you. Sometimes causes someone to lose their individuality. I would have to agree with that. It's that you become so involved in something, you to a point where you start to lose your identity on something. A lot of times you just don't even realize that. So
it becomes the sheep who are led. Yep. And when the sheep are led,
or in this case, the goat.
Yeah, and the goat, exactly, the goat. And there's been so many times over in their career where things that people said about them have hurt them when those things aren't even accurate or true. But it hurt them because enough people went along with it. If people didn't, I've had so many people say, well, I was never into them but I never heard them before. And I've been thinking to myself, wow, that's a tell on you, isn't it? You've never been into them.
That's because they'd rather jump on the on a bandwagon of hating on something when they know nothing about it.
Well, they would say, oh, I didn't like the aesthetic. And I was like, well, they haven't had that aesthetic in like 12 years. They've been out there for 12. I think they stopped wearing makeup like 2013 or 2014 completely. I mean, other than, stage makeup, so you could see
Well,
their
yeah.
face when they made expressions on stage or whatever. But they haven't done the body paint look, the giant hair and everything for 13 years.
Yeah,
So
and whatever
that
music,
was,
whatever makeup they did do, like I remember even in 2021 when I first saw them,
mhm,
like they still did some like war paint, like Lonnie had the X
right,
and that kind of
right.
stuff, but it wasn't like I'm gonna paint my whole body with acrylic black paint and
Well, sure.
go
I
out
mean,
on stage.
I don't. I've looked fondly on those days because I know that they were just excited to do it, to be there, to out there, to whatever. Getting hate and getting love, people cared about them and they were
Oh yeah,
talking about them all the time. And it was a unifier for those guys in the band because even though they were getting hate, particularly from the other bands that they were on the bills with, who would mock them at the shows, um, that brought them together more. It made their bond a lot stronger, and I
oh
think
yeah,
it made the bond with their fans stronger to a certain extent too, because the real diehards, the ride or dies, have been with them. I just wished our ride or dies were meaner, not because I want them to be mean, but because I've seen how nasty some of these other fandoms and fan bases have been, and the members of their band. Like if Andy had somebody making fun of somebody else's band in our fan base, you've seen what he does. He
oh yeah,
steps right up. He tells them, "Don't do that. I'm not gonna. Don't use my name. Don't use our band for that or whatever." But when other bands fans would be giving shit to Black Veil, they were cowards, and
yeah,
they wouldn't step up and say to their fans, "Don't do that. These
yeah,
guys are our friends, or these guys are our tour mates, or these guys." They wouldn't do it. They
yeah,
enjoyed it. They
yeah.
loved it. So it's a character thing. You know what? Who has great character? Jake.
Oh yeah,
It's a great character. DC, Jinx, Lonnie, who's like one of the biggest sweethearts I ever know, and Andy
yeah.
is. They're good character guys. They don't they don't spend their time trying to figure out why somebody else is successful. They try to figure out how they can be more
Exactly.
successful.
Yeah. So, do you have any last final thoughts about certainty or anything like that?
Oh, let
I
me
think we
see.
kind of covered everything.
Yeah, I don't think the old man yapping anymore is going to serve the purpose. You gave me plenty of time to talk, so.
All right. Well, I appreciate you yapping with me about certainty in the band in general. Only thing I have to say is if you guys are not subscribed to the channel or you're not following along, you should go do that. Make sure you're following me on all my social medias, which are linked in the description below. Also, make sure you check out my Etsy. I have a couple new items listed on there. I just did a Rhea Ripley bustier up for sale. So if you like mommy, you can own a piece that looks like something she would wear in the ring. So anyway, my final thoughts, my closing on this. As we listen to this record, which will be coming out here very soon, May 8th, I believe, we will be able to understand where the song and the others fit in with kind of the message and the theme that the band is trying to convey. So I look forward to all that's going to come. I've heard good things about some songs that will be released here. They did the signing of the vinyls and the CDs just this past week, actually. So those will be sent out very soon. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we will see you in the next one. Stay rad.